All right, good afternoon, and thank you all for being here, and thank you to those who are watching online. I want to provide a number of several critical updates to a number of issues that's happened over the weekend. But before I start, I want to extend my sincere condolences to the loved ones who lost people in Monterey, California. Yet another mass shootings in our country, and we should all be troubled by this. Just sad, senseless tragedy. Our hearts goes out to the LA community, the California community. I'm going to talk about some things in our community and certainly some heroic acts by our officers. You have seen the past couple of weeks with a number of things happening at the beginning of the year, a theme of very hardworking men and women in the Detroit Police Department. And I've decided as I do these weekly briefings regarding these critical incidents, which we're committed to doing from a transparency standpoint, to highlight the work that goes into it. And today we're going to be talking about some of that work and what these officers have been participating in. The first incident I'm discussing is a fatal car accident that occurred on Saturday, January 21st. And I'm going to get into that in a moment, but I want you to be able to associate a name with a person. So can we do a quick intro so we all know who we're looking at?
Deputy Chief, Crime Strategy Bureau.
Assistant Chief Eric Ewing, Field Support.
Officer Jerry for the 9th Precinct. Officer Scott, 9th Precinct.
Assistant Chief Fitzgerald, Enforcement Operations.
Deputy Chief Stewart, Tiffany Stewart, Eastern Operations. Rashad Sims, Deputy Chief, Western Operations.
Officer Escobar, 5th Precinct.
Officer Mayweather, 5th Precinct.
Officer Williams, 5th Precinct.
Officer Morris, 5th Precinct. Officer Moyer, 5th Precinct.
Officer Sharp, 5th Precinct.
Thank you. On Saturday, January 21st, on Woodhall near Chandler Park Drive, a vehicle was observed driving at a high rate of speed, and it was occupied with 4 people inside the vehicle. This vehicle subsequently crashed into a tree. This happened within seconds of seeing the vehicle speeding. 6 officers arrived on the scene pretty quickly, and despite the fire, they helped the Detroit Fire Department rescue 3 of the 4 occupants. Unfortunately, the 4th passenger was killed on impact and could not be saved. This vehicle was totally engulfed. The officers exhibited incredible bravery, pulling those 3 victims out of that vehicle. And again, the 4th one, unfortunately, succumbed to his injuries. This is something that we see all too often with speeding, something we see all too often with people driving at a high rate of speed. What we did learn in the investigation thus far is the driver indicates that he was cut off by someone, which led to the accident. But again, speed was a factor, and the officers' actions were just simply incredible. In fact, they sustained injuries and had to be treated. 3 of the 4 of them had to be treated at an area hospital. The surviving passengers were treated at a local hospital. And I want to personally recognize Officer Sharp, Officer Dwyer, Officer Merriweather, Officer Williams, Officer Morris, and Officer Esquivel. Thank you for your service. Thank you for your commitment to our community. The next incident on Sunday, January 22nd, this involved Officer Nathan Cherry and Officer Stephen Scott. They were on patrol in the area of Madeline and Hayes. The officers observed 2 vehicles driving erratically, and upon further investigation, they were without license plates. So it's early in the morning. I believe it was around 2-3 a.m. I don't have that information. Was it 3 a.m., AC? Yeah. 3 a.m., 2 cars driving erratically. We don't know what they were up to. What we do know is we got officers who are patrolling our community, what we ask them to do, and they see this. They go to pull over this vehicle. While following the vehicle to conduct that traffic stop, shots were fired from that vehicle at our officers. Our crime intelligence unit used shot spotter technology and identified where these shots were coming from. Turns out that there was a total of 6 shots fired. If you look at the map there, where the shot spotter locations are indicated are in yellow, and you see that there was 3 separate times that these officers were fired upon at 3 different locations. Thankfully, none of our officers were hurt. Thankfully, we're not here talking about an officer who was killed in the line of duty. Despite being fired upon, The officers made the courageous decision to continue to pursue these suspects from a safer distance. They also made a decision not to return fire, thinking that it would cause potential harm to our community as they're moving in a scout car and not wanting to put our community at risk. They made the courageous decision not to return fire, but to continue to follow. During this pursuit, we knew that they were in danger. The vehicle crashed and the officers were able to take both occupants into custody. Neither the officers or the occupants suffered severe injuries. They had minor injuries from their accident as they were attempting to evade the police. We later learned that these two suspects, were out on parole, and we are at this point, as you can imagine, looking to have, at the very least, their parole agent contacted and looking at what we can do to revoke any of those privileges as well as charge them. That case is still under investigation. So again, heroic actions of our officers, and I just want to personally thank you for your commitment to our community and our citizens. The next incident, I'm going to go back to Saturday, January 21st on Kendall near Linwood. A 5-year-old child was found with an unsecured firearm and accidentally shot himself in the hand. Thank you. Our preliminary investigation shows that the child found the gun allegedly inside the vehicle. The investigation continues. We have been here too many times talking about gun ownership and making sure that these weapons are secure. If you're going to own a weapon, you certainly have to have the responsibility of ensuring that it is not left in the hands of a child. In this incident, it was. We don't know exactly where the vehicle or whether the gun was. We entered the home on consent. We were able to recover the weapon from inside the home, not from inside the vehicle. And we also found evidence inside the house and on the porch to suggest that perhaps it did not happen in the vehicle, as indicated. Sadly, the child looks like he lost his finger, was significantly injured, and it looks like it's going to result in him losing that finger. The scars from the incident will go much beyond his finger, and we're actively investigating to see what charges will be levied against those who left that gun unsecure. So again, gun safety, gun safety. I am tired of standing here trying to explain these circumstances to you all. You're probably tired of hearing me talk about them. But, you know, we have to be conscientious if we're going to be owners of weapons. Guns get you in more trouble than they get you out of. And if you're going to have one, you got to make sure that you secure it. But again, at this time, no one is in custody. Lastly, I want to speak about a number of robberies at dollar stores in our city. Our crime intelligence unit continues to work crime patterns and recognition of crime patterns. We do a number of different things. Working this pattern, we identified that there were a number of incidents where approximately 20 dollar stores were robbed at gunpoint. Since January 1st, we've recognized, it's not approximately, actually 20 dollar stores robbed at gunpoint. We continue to investigate these incidents, and as I've indicated, we are going to relentlessly pursue those who victimize our community, victimize those who live, work, or visit our community. So as we were investigating these incidents, we identified that one of the suspects used a weapon, at least one of the suspects. We can announce currently that we have one suspect that's been charged. We can flip that. And this suspect is Fernando Ford. He's charged with armed robbery and felony firearm in connection with one of these incidents. We also have made another arrest, and we'll be announcing charges on those very soon. The investigators continue to work this case. We know that we are close to making an arrest on one of the suspects who may be good for a number of these robberies. We're also working with the dollar stores to ensure that they have proper security and the things that they need to be good partners for us. There's a reason that they're being targeted. We believe that they're soft targets, and people are taking advantage of that. So our crime intelligence and our neighborhood police officers are working with them to ensure that they have what they need to keep their employee group safe. But we are going to do our part to ensure that we are making these arrests and getting these folks off the street unapologetically, as these people are making some horrible decisions to victimize our community. So with that, I will take any questions.
Hi, Chief.
Hello.
Kim Craig, Channel 7. Can you tell us about the speed on the Woodhall crash? What was the speed? And we're hearing from the family and from people in the neighborhood that there was a pursuit that was involved in that?
And that's incorrect. I reviewed the video personally. There was no pursuit. This car was flying through the neighborhoods, lost control and hit a tree. We had our IA team look at it, our force team look at it. The assistant chief and myself looked at it. It was not a chase. The officers got there quickly. They saw the car and they flipped around, but it was no chase.
Was IA involved in the force, the unit you were just referring to?
Force investigations.
Force investigation. Were they involved because initially it came out as a pursuit, or what brought them to be involved?
We always, when there's a pursuit, particularly or a incident where, to be candid, we look at timing. We look at how quickly the officers arrived. The assistant chief and I talked about it over the weekend, made a decision to bring in force to take a look at it, look at all the video, not just the ones that we had, but in the area. And we were confident that it was not a chase. And we're a transparent agency. If it were a chase, we'd say it was a chase. In this instance, it was no chase.
So what was the arrival time then?
I don't have that with me. It was very quickly, within a couple minutes.
So had they spotted this vehicle elsewhere in the city, drifting, doing donuts, speeding, anything like that? My
understanding, and I don't have all that with me, but if we want to go specific on this case, we can do that outside of this presser. But my understanding is they saw the vehicle speeding. I don't know the precise time. When they saw it, they were going to stop it, and it cracked up, but they were not chasing. And again, if they were, we would say that. There's no reason, if they were chasing, there's no reason for us not to say that.
So, okay, and forgive me, so you said when they spotted the vehicle, it had cracked up. It had already cracked up, or?
Here's my understanding. They saw the vehicle speeding. Okay, they went to stop it, and before they could make a complete stop on it, they didn't even have a chance to activate the lights. The vehicle had cracked up.
Okay, can you say how long they had been following them, pursuing them?
So they weren't pursuing them, ma'am. And if they were pursuing them, I would say they were pursuing them.
Okay, so
Okay, so what I'm saying is, let me say what I'm saying. So as I indicated, the vehicle was traveling at a high rate of speed. Okay, they see the vehicle traveling at a high rate of speed, and they're going to stop it because they get to do that to investigate why a vehicle is traveling over 60 miles an hour in a 25-mile-an-hour zone. At which time, when they're going to stop it, but before they could stop it, they see a plume of smoke. The vehicle had cracked up.
Thank you.
All right.
Hi, Chief. John Hewitt, WWJ. Just point of clarity on a couple of things just to make sure I heard it right, and forgive me if it's redundant for you. On the erratic drivers and the traffic stop, shots fired, shots not returned, were the shots from the vehicle that was being followed, or can you provide a little more clarity when officers were shot at from the location ShotSpotter gave you?
Yes. So what happened is they see these two vehicles, again, driving erratically, unplated. They're going to do a traffic stop. As they're attempting to get close enough to do the traffic stop, obviously the drivers notice that the police are pulling up and they shoot at the police. Now they're lit up, meaning, their lights are on and they're attempting to stop the vehicle. They continue to pursue it, but they drop back. Then there's more shots fired. Again, all from the suspect vehicle. We're able to look at, luckily and fortunately, we're in a ShotSpotter area, so they're able to go back and see precisely where the shots were coming from. They were actually able, as a result of that, to recover the weapon that they used, which they had tossed from that location that we've identified where the shots were coming from.
And sorry to grind it to a fine powder here, but there were two vehicles initially seen, and then
there were two. They made a
followed
decision to stop one. Yep.
Okay. Thank you. And then in regard to the dollar store, you alluded to vulnerability. Can you first double set of questions on this? Do you believe this individual and the other that you're possibly looking to arrest are responsible for the bulk of any evidence that they are the ones that are hitting dollar stores, and also the vulnerabilities? What are you talking about in regard to that, if you can share anything?
I don't know if that was my word, but certainly we believe that they could be a soft target. There's something that we're seeing as we look at these crime trends. There's a reason they're choosing them, so we just want to make sure that we harden the target and talk to them and make sure that they're doing everything on their end to assist us so it doesn't result in these robberies. We're going to be doing some work with them as well from the inside to, hopefully catch some of these people. We don't know how many he's good for. I'm sure the detective who's not here knows, meaning Mr. Ford. I believe it's, and AC, correct me if I'm wrong, was it multiple in this one or is that the other one?
The other one.
Okay, all right. So we have a suspect that I cannot mention right now until he's charged that we know is good for multiple robberies, but I'm not at liberty to discuss his name right now. This suspect is good for the one that we talked about, but detectives are good at what they do. They'll continue to debrief them.
And I guess I'm looking for a little more clarity, if you're able to, in regard to, do these stores, whether it's Dollar or others, need to hire security, look at different hours of operation, or is there something you can put a finger on for everybody's benefit as to what creates a vulnerability? My word, not yours.
Well, I think the first thing that needs to happen is people need to stop robbing them. I mean, that's a societal norm, right? I mean, so regardless of whether or not they have security or whatever, they shouldn't be victimized. But the reality is that's not the case. So we're going to talk to them about things that they may be able to do to help us help them. Maybe some cameras in different places and some things like that. And but I'm not going to talk about that because it'll be counterintuitive to do that. And then there'll be a workaround because of me. So we're going to be working with them to make sure that everything that they can do, they're doing, and we're doing what we can to reduce this. But we know that we've got two really good suspects on this. One that we got warrants on already. The other we're going to get warrants on, I'm pretty confident, and he's going to be good for many. We debrief and find out why'd you go to this one? Why did you do that? What made you choose these? And when we get that information, we share it.
Thank you.
All right, thanks.
Hey, Chief, quickly, Sean from Channel 4, thanks for your time. The two you mentioned on the dollar stores, those would be, I know it's early, but the two who may have done all of them?
Well, we know, and I have to be careful because the prosecutor's got a lot of work to do. I don't want to mess up the case before she signs it. I don't want to mess it up at all, but sometimes when we, in our attempt to be transparent, we can talk too much, and so I'm not going to do that. But I'll say this: we're confident that the person that we're bringing charges on, which we've already have in custody, but we're waiting on the warrant to be signed, is good for multiple robberies. He will be debriefed, and we will share that information, what we learn, certain aspects of it, with those business owners so that they will not be a target as well. There are certain aspects to why those choices were made. The suspect that we've just given you with the picture, he's good for one.
And the stores themselves, you mentioned there's aspects. Can you point to one? And if there's a lot of the same ones, a chain, say, all the same names and things like that, is there something they can do right away that you're working with that can help with security for their employees?
Again, we can't be desensitized to the fact that they're being robbed. I mean, somebody's making a decision to go into a business and put a gun in somebody's face and rob them. So that's the bad person. That's the person that shouldn't do it, right? So we're not going to beat up on the dollar store businesses that are trying to run a business in our community. We have to make sure that we keep the responsibility where it is, on the person who's making this horrible decision. Now, because of these horrible decisions, we're going to just garner everything we can on these debriefs and say, hey, here's why you were targeted. Maybe you can do this. We're not pushing green light, but it's a tool that helps. We're not, get some cameras. Make sure they're pointed right at the entry points. Get faces so that we can get these persons off the street. That'll help us. There's some other things that, again, I can't go into because I don't want to, take away from what we're going to be telling them.
Yeah. Thank you, Chief.
All right. Thank you. All right. Thank you, everybody.